Basketball.
Curry sidestep, Curry drive, Curry flip, Curry good!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on KNBR 104.5 and 6.8. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
32 from Klay Thompson. Tremendous game from Kuminga, 21, 10, and 4. The Warriors put 5 players in double figures, shoot it at 53%. Lakers on Tuesday, Kay. Last road trip of the year, Lakers and Portland. And they'll finish up with New Orleans with these same Jazz.
All right, Warriors win. Fitz gives you all the details, basically my whole open here as we welcome you into Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader, live at Harmonic Brewing. No Steph, no problem for Golden State as they get the job done, although I think there might be some gamblers tonight that are unhappy with the ending of this one. I didn't check, and we don't do a lot of gambling on this show here on Dubs OT, but I think in the time that it took me from going to Chase Center, from over at Chase Center to get over here to Harmonic Brewing, I think the Jazz covered, and just in that interim, and maybe made some gamblers who had the Warriors, who basically led by 14 or more for a good chunk of this one, let them down. But all in all, Jonathan Kuminga comes back, and he looked really good in this game. Klay Thompson up to the challenge with 25 first-half points. No Stephen Curry, and kind of the perfect opponent, I think, for the Warriors in this one. Utah Jazz team that is tanking. I mean, they are actively trying not to win at this point, defensively challenged. And the Warriors were able to come out after a bit of a slow start, maybe in the first couple of minutes, and just shoot the lights out. 8 of 12 from three-point range in quarter number one. And Klay Thompson with 25 in the first half. And it was really the Klay Thompson and Jonathan Kuminga show offensively for the Warriors, putting some energy into Chase Center on a night where you would think that maybe, Sunday afternoon kind of a game. The weather's starting to get a little bit better here in the Bay. No Stephen Curry. I think there was some potential for there to be a little bit of a lull in this one, but no real lull other than the Warriors able to kind of coast in this one and get the win 118-110. As mentioned, we are at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. So cheers to everyone. We'll just get that out of the way right at the top of the show here. Cheers to everyone at Harmonic. We got Alex and Shay running things behind the bar here as well. We've already had regular listener Danny in Vancouver chime in and stop by and say hi here as we got set up on the show. Appreciate Danny. And we've had our buddy Cole, who Cole's usually helping Greg in the studio, and he was here. I got to meet Cole's sister. I got to meet Cole's parents. So wonderful family. It was a family affair at the ball game tonight. So really appreciate them stopping by right before we got this show underway as the Warriors earned themselves a much-needed victory at this point, as they acknowledged before the game that they may be accepting their fate as a play-in tournament team given the loss on Friday against the Dallas Mavericks. And so we'll get into this one, some thoughts on this, where it leaves everything. We'll give you the updated standings as well in the Western Conference play-in and playoff race. The Warriors officially are in the top 10 with the Rockets losing in overtime earlier today against the Mavs. So Warriors in as a top 10 team. Can they move up potentially to 9th? The Lakers are ongoing right now at this hour down in Southern California. They're taking on the Timberwolves, and the Lakers had jumped out to a lead. They are now trailing, though. The Timberwolves on a big run, 69-60 Minnesota. LeBron James is not playing. He came up with flu-like symptoms this morning, out for this one, second of a back-to-back. And so things are starting to take shape. If that score holds and the Lakers can't win tonight against Minnesota, then the Warriors would be in a position where they'd be a game and a half back of the 9 spot going down to LA to take on the Lakers on Tuesday. And so while it's become increasingly unlikely that the Warriors can move beyond 9, I think they thought tonight that they could win the game against Utah without Stephen Curry. And so this was a good opportunity and time for them to rest Stephen Curry and get him fresh and ready to go for the Laker game on Tuesday night. They get Jonathan Kuminga back. Andrew Wiggins can take another couple of days to make sure that he's hopefully ready, because I think that game's a big-time challenge if the Warriors don't have Wiggins, the Tuesday night game against L.A. But I think with the way things stand, and Steve Kerr addressed this in his pregame press conference, the way things stand as far as not having tiebreakers against the Kings and the schedule ahead, that it was becoming increasingly unlikely that the Warriors would be able to move up to 8th. And again, they didn't say it, but I think I got the impression they believe they could win this game without Steph. And then if they do, you've got a more rested team should the Lakers without LeBron lose tonight. And maybe you go in, you take your chances with the game against the Lakers. And if you're only a half game back at that point with the tiebreaker coming out of there, if you can win that game, then maybe you play out the final 3 trying to get the 9 seed and earn a home play-in game against the Lakers coming up on what would be likely April the 17th. So still a lot to be decided. The Kings did bounce back and handled their business in Brooklyn. They beat the Nets 107-77. So for the time being, Sacramento moves back into the 8th spot, a tie with the Lakers. And they have the tiebreaker over the Lakers as well. And so just kind of keeping everybody updated on that here as we get Dubs OT off and rolling here on a Sunday evening on KNBR, the sports leader. That would be a good night for Sacramento if the Lakers obviously get beat there, because then they'd be back to a half game up with the tiebreaker and in control of their own destiny to avoid the 9-10 game, which of the last 24 hours they had dipped back into. So 808 KNBR is the number to give us a call or shoot us a text here. Dubs OT with JD on the sports leader. 808 415-808-5627. We appreciate everybody, as always, who's watching on YouTube, Twitch, and the Twitter live stream as well, the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. And we've already got our buddy Drew Down ready to chime in with some thoughts. So we'll get to Drew Down, but we do have a couple of lines open here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. What's going on, Drew Down? You're up first here tonight on Dubs OT.
Hey, what's going on? Good evening, JD. Warriors
took care of business.
They took care of business tonight. I know the final was 8, but that was mostly cosmetic with, the benches emptied. I was a little skeptical of the closing lineup they threw out there. I thought it was a little offensively challenged, but they definitely got stops they needed to, and, they closed the game out. And I know people are going to say, they played the Jazz, but boo-hoo, I don't care. No Steph, no Wiggins. They did what they needed to do. I thought Klay came out cooking like a Hell's Kitchen finale. That was good to see. And then Trace Jackson-Davis, man, 16 points, 7 boards, 4 blocks. Just continues his strong play. Love to see it. And then some of these jabronis talking about, the Warriors play better. They need to trade JK. Let's slow down on that. 21, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 9-11 from the floor. I know Rick Celebrini and the staff are, notoriously cautious with injuries and slow play. But obviously, I think that's long-term, that's the best, for guys. And so people like Guru and other guys can stop worrying about JK. He's just fine. Like I said, the training staff is notorious for slow playing. So good to see JK back out there and being really effective for this team. It don't matter. I don't care if he's starting, comes off the bench. I mean, as long as he's playing, 25 or so minutes off the floor, he brings a different dimension that this team needs. So glad to see him out there and glad to see him playing well, hitting shots. So just, I thought it was a great performance from JK. I thought CP3 and Pods both played great. GP2, was a pest, on the ball like he normally is. So a good game without Curry. Everybody kind of chipped in. But like you said, man, they got a tough game coming up against the Lakers. They've been playing really well. So if they want a chance to maybe move up to 9 and, at least maybe get a home game for that play-in. So hopefully Wiggins is ready to go. Steph got some rest. So hopefully he's ready to go. So got a tough game, but let's see what this team is made of on Tuesday. Thanks, JD.
Yeah, appreciate it, Drew Down. His line open for you. 808 KNBR is the number. Agree with a lot of what Drew Down had to say here to get things rolling. Yeah, Kuminga was coming back. Like I don't think there was any doubt about that. But they wanted to make sure that he was going to be able to come back and then not have to sit down again. I thought Kuminga looked great physically, which is the first thing that you look for. I mean, he came in and immediately hit a three, had an and one, hit a pull-up jumper. And then from that point on was basically attacking the rim. He was a lob threat. He was active on the boards. It wasn't just scoring for JK. It was the double-double for Kuminga. And again, I think the Jazz are the perfect opponent for him to come back against because they don't exactly put up a lot of defensive resistance. And so you can kind of get a comfortable run out there. And so I was a little surprised. I think some were a little surprised. I was actually a little surprised, to be honest, that Kuminga didn't start when it came out that Andrew Wiggins was going to be joining Stephen Curry again and not playing in this game. But it actually made a lot of sense when you thought it through, just based on the fact that TJD and Draymond had been the starting front court. And, Steve Kerr wasn't going to start Kuminga at the three. He went smaller. You knew Chris Paul was going to start for Steph. Klay was going to be out there, and so who would the next guy be? I think Moses Moody played his way out of that role with the way that he played in the starting role against Dallas, and so you go with Podziemski, who is somebody that's been a starter and among the Warriors' more successful lineup groupings throughout the course of the season as a starter. So it actually makes a ton of sense. Takes a little heat off of Kuminga coming back to be able to work his way in. If you do need to manage his minutes, you can. And it just kind of gives a soft landing for Kuminga to get back up and rolling. And I also think it sets the tone. And this was the part that I loved about Kuminga's game tonight, is it sets the tone for him to be comfortable and know that he can produce big numbers coming off the bench, because that may very well be his role between now and not only the end of the regular season, which is a week from today, but also his role in a play-in game. If the Warriors do decide to stick with the Trace Jackson, Davis, Draymond Green front line for that play-in game. And so Kuminga may be the first guy in or one of the first couple of guys in, and he has to be able to hit the ground running and thrive and look to be in attack mode if that is going to be his role. So I like the fact that he was able to do it, and he's been productive off the bench over the course of this season, including the last 6 games. He's had 20 or more off the bench in each of the last 6 games that he's come off the bench. So he can do it and be effective doing it. And I think, with the TJD Draymond front court, it allows for Kuminga to become somebody that can be a big time, scorer and infusion of energy. The crowd was really hyped tonight, as I mentioned, to get Kuminga out there and making impactful plays. So I loved what I saw. We had to wait 2 or 3 extra games, longer than anybody thought we were going to have to see Kuminga, but I think it was worth the wait tonight, given the way that he played. And I think the Warriors deserve some credit for making sure that he's healthy and making sure that he's, ready to roll. And so he looked good, and they're going to need him against the Lakers, and they're going to need him moving forward in the play-in game to be determined, whether it's going to be against the Lakers at Chase or Lakers down in Southern California, or the Kings, or however things shake out over the next 7 days. Jonathan Kuminga is going to have to be a big part of it. So I actually think, Klay Thompson is the headline from this game specifically tonight for me, just based on 25 in the first half. And our buddy Greg Silver said, all right, Klay knew what the job was with Steph out, which is look to fill it up and get the job done, fill it up. And he did it, and the Warriors needed it. And it just made for a mostly comfortable night. Defensively at times, Johnny Juzang was going toe-to-toe with Klay. That was a little odd, to say the least. But wouldn't be an official Warriors game if some random player on the opposition was not having a borderline career or career night. And so you give the Warriors credit as Rockin' New Era 84 chimes in. Greg Silver greater than Adam Silver. I'll buy that. I'm not a big Adam Silver guy. for those of you that didn't know that. Some of you did. I haven't had too many KNBR Adam Silver rants. I have had a few in my prior radio life, Adam Silver rants going back to last year. But, I'll take Greg Silver over Adam Silver any day of the week, and a couple of times on Sunday, since it is Sunday officially here today. So nice win for the Warriors. Again, I don't think there are a lot of dramatic conclusions to be drawn. San Jose Jazz fan the third. Wait, did the Warriors win a home game? That's 2 straight home games to you, San Jose Jazz fan, with 2 more to go Friday and Sunday. An opportunity to get to 22-19, I guess could be the high. So they haven't clinched a winning season at home as of yet, but they can do it with 1 more win in either of the last 2 games. Still, it's going to go down even at 22-19 as a disappointing home schedule. But to see the Warriors, put together the win against Dallas and then not come back with Steph, it's also the second win without Steph in 7 games this season, which, I think the Jazz were a team the Warriors should beat no matter what at this point in the season. But I would be lying to you if I hadn't had the thought at some point today with Steph not playing that this game might eventually get a little too close for comfort. And it never really did. It never really did. The Jazz jumped out to the early lead. It was, 9-2, maybe 8-2, and then it was like 10-6. And then the Warriors immediately just start hitting threes all over the barn and are able to, grab a comfortable lead from there. Klay Thompson was going off. Kuminga came in, made an impact. And, you look up at the end of the night, it winds up, not necessarily being a, dramatic evening. Although, again, I think those who had action on this one, 12.5 as we bring in our buddy Greg Silver here on Dubs OT. Warriors minus 12.5 tonight. And to be sure, in the time that it took me to walk from Chase over to Harmonic where we do the show, I think that turned into a Warriors winning bet, from a Warriors winning bet to a Utah winning bet, just like that.
Yeah, I'm not a huge gambling guy, to be honest. I love analyzing sports. I love getting to cover the Warriors with you, JD, but anything like that, I think it's a funny nugget to talk about. And I'm not like, I'll never talk about gambling, but it is just something that I cannot for the life of me take seriously.
No, I don't either. And it's why you don't typically hear me talk a lot about it. But it was something notable. I just thought I always kind of note it. I never really talk about it a lot. And I thought throughout the game, I was like, oh, yeah, the Warriors, even without Steph, are still going to cover, because all game they were up for the most part 13 or more. And then it was like, oh, they won by 8, because sometimes if you take off a little bit before the final horn, I'll be catching up on the actual final score, and that one hit me tonight. Like, oh, they won by 8. It felt like they won by 18-22, but not the case in this one tonight for the Warriors. So 808 KNBR, the number 415-808-5627. It is Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader, as the Warriors are victorious against the Utah Jazz tonight. Final score of 118-110. And, Jonathan Kuminga, 21. Klay Thompson leads the way, 32. The Warriors did get a nice Trace Jackson-Davis offensive performance, 16 points, 7 boards, 4 blocks for TJD. And it was a good Brandon Podziemski game, getting the start in the backcourt, basically getting the start for Wiggins. Klay Thompson kicks to the 3. They still start Draymond Green and TJD at the 4 and the 5, respectively. But Podziemski's the guy that gets to start for Wiggins. And he had 16 points and 7 boards and 6 assists and was hustling around defensively, trying to make plays. And so I thought that was a really nice effort. Kuminga gave the Warriors the lift that they needed in terms of bench scoring. And again, you got to take advantage of who you're playing. And I thought the Warriors were able to do that in this one. And so it all adds up to what now is the Warriors' 43rd win of the season. Just 4 games to go, 43-35. So the Warriors 2 back of the Lakers, 2 back now of Sacramento. But again, no tiebreaker. Sacramento currently in 8th. No tiebreaker for the Warriors over the Kings. Kings have the tiebreaker over the Lakers. Lakers are down at the half right now by 15 to the Timberwolves, and LeBron James isn't playing, 79-64. And also in that game, Anthony Davis went out of that game, and kind of a similar deal to the game that the Warriors played down in Southern California in March, where the Lakers, without LeBron, were up on the Timberwolves early. And then in the second quarter, the Timberwolves scored 46 points. They outscored the Lakers 46-27. The Lakers, when they don't have Anthony Davis, become a historically bad defensive team immediately. And we saw it in the game against the Warriors. Lakers were doing some things tonight. And then 46 in the second quarter without Anthony Davis. No update. I was reading a couple of tweets. Jovan Buha of the Athletic covers the Lakers, and he was saying no update on what the reasoning was or the injury was for AD. So, yeah, if he can't play in that game on Tuesday, hell, even if he can't come back and play in this second half, that bodes well for a couple of Northern California teams, Warriors included, as far as having the potential to move up. I mean, Anthony Davis may be the difference between winning and losing for the Warriors, a big game against the Lakers. I think that was 100% the case, Greg, in the game on March the 16th. If the Lakers dominated when AD was out there, and the moment he went out, the Warriors got whatever they wanted offensively. They were able to keep the Warriors off the glass, and I think it proved to be the difference in a game that the Warriors, because of a Herculean LeBron James effort, had to win close, but were still able to win.
Yeah, and don't forget that including one of the best shots I've ever seen LeBron James make not count because he was out of bounds on the sideline. So you're not wrong about that at all. It was so much the case that we turned it into a whole question of the night that night. And AD against the Warriors obviously kills them inside when the Lakers are on offense, and we know that, and he draws a lot of fouls. But you touched on it perfectly, the defensive side where the Warriors can go get what they want. Our buddy Zena Keita from NBC Sports Bay Area tonight put out on Twitter talking about the Warriors having 2 major lob threats on the floor with Kuminga and TJD. Yeah, guess what the biggest effect is when Anthony Davis isn't on the floor? They're actual lob threats.
They are. No, that's exactly right. The lob threats are much more impactful. And I noted that same tweet, and I didn't want to be that guy tonight, but I saw the tweet in a moment where really both of those guys were getting cooked defensively, and I thought, yeah, two lob threats and still no defense, because it was, again, in a rough stretch of the game there at the beginning of the fourth quarter where the Jazz were kind of able to hang around, cut the lead down to 12. It was the Chris Paul, Brandon Pajemski, Klay Thompson, Jonathan Kuminga, Trace Jackson Davis lineup. Kuminga's defense tonight left a little to be desired, but again, I'm not really judging anything in the grand scheme. Like, I think tonight was the kind of game where the Warriors didn't really have to be buttoned up defensively. I don't really care if Kuminga was buttoned up defensively tonight or not. To me, it was more, did he look physically well, and did he look comfortable coming off the bench even in a game without Stephen Curry? And I don't care that it was the Jazz. The Jazz are the perfect opponent, I think, for a team to get comfortable against offensively. And you know what? The Warriors needed that tonight, and I thought they took advantage of it. Klay Thompson, his last couple of games against the Jazz, I mean, he's lit the Jazz up. Remember going back in that week in February where the Warriors played a couple of games in Salt Lake City, and Klay Thompson went nuts in one of those games as well. So Klay likes playing the Rockets, likes playing the Jazz, and the Warriors needed him to be as effective as he was in this one. And it really was it was a throwback kind of Klay game in the sense that the crowd was getting into it. And it was almost like, could he start? And he took a few heat check shots that he missed, but every time he got the ball, the crowd really wanted him to shoot it, and you could feel it. And there was a little bit more juice in the building tonight, which I think even without Steph, and it's rare for that to be the case without Steph, but, people were really vibing off of Klay Thompson and the potential for Klay Thompson to do something special, right? And if he had hit a couple of those shots, it would have been one of those almost historically great, Klay type quarters or halves. It was his best half of the season with the 25 points. Obviously, a guy who scored 37 and a quarter, historic for him. The bar is pretty high. Most 3-pointers in an NBA game ever, so the bar is pretty high. But there were vibes along those lines at different points tonight.
Well, I'll also say this about Klay. You know how a lot of guys in the NBA, both today and really over the history, are clear number twos. Like, they're great number twos on good teams. I think Klay Thompson has always stood out to me in the sense that when Steph Curry is not available for a given night or maybe a small stretch, he's never not understood the assignment in terms of what he has to do and being that guy. And even look at the disastrous loss to the Spurs when Steph Curry didn't play and the Warriors got embarrassed at home. Klay was kind of the only one in that game that did seem to get it. So I'm not saying that in his prime, Klay could have been the number one on a championship contending team over the course of a whole season. But I do think that he's always had a knack for stepping up in spot games where Steph Curry's not there for him.
Yeah, he has, and I think he actually probably could have been. Now it been a number one in his prime on a team, not a championship contending team, but on a team that won 45 games. Like I think he could have been for sure. But no, that's a key point because the Warriors haven't always had the guy who's ready to step in and step up when Steph is out. Jordan Poole was able to do it effectively last year, but if you remember last year, at the end of the year, when Steph had to miss a bunch of time toward the end of the year, who was it that it was Jordan Poole, but it was Jordan Poole and it was Klay Thompson that were both really playing well. And Kuminga was kind of the third guy at that point, and had really played well down the stretch when Wiggins was out and the Warriors were shuffling some things around and with some of their lineups, and he was able to come off the bench and really help out and score at a high level. So 808 KNBR is the number. It is Dubs OT with JD. We're talking about a Warriors win tonight. We'll come back and we will set the table for our question of the night.
And real quick before we get there, just because I don't want to go off topic mid-segment, but it was just announced that Kentucky coach John Calipari is leaving
I did see that.
to become the new coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, although the Shams Charania tweet says Arizona Razorbacks. I don't think Tommy Lloyd is leaving Tucson.
No, Tommy Lloyd's not out, although now we know why Eric Musselman was wait, he's going to Arkansas? Wait, what? Wait, where's he going?
Yeah,
he's
Arkansas.
going. He's
Arkansas.
taking. Yeah, he's taking Muss's job.
He's taking Muss's job.
That's right.
Yeah.
So now we know why Muss was ready to leave.
Yes.
So everybody's like, oh, I'm not a big Muss guy. We don't need to spend too much time on that. That'll get me off on a tangent. Not a big Muss guy. Going back to him being one of the first NBA coaches that I ever covered, actually. Long time ago, not with the Warriors. It was not with the Warriors. It was the other team. Not a big Muss guy, but he's been a very good college coach. But when everybody was kind of wondering, why'd Muss leave? Oh, okay, now I understand. Now I understand why Muss would leave. So yeah, let's go ahead and pause here. We'll get our question of the night. I thought you were going to have the breaking news that Anthony Davis did not return in the beginning of the second half of their game. Again, he played the first quarter. It's basically a carbon copy of the game at Staples back in March. He played the first quarter. It's an eye, and he's done for the night. Anthony Davis, eye injury, will not return to tonight's game, according to the Lakers. So they're up against it in this one tonight again, and the Timberwolves are up 84-72 at about the 8-minute mark of quarter number 3. So if the Timberwolves can hold on, the Warriors are only a half game back of the Lakers, or a game and a half back of the Lakers, with a game to be played on Tuesday night down in Southern California. Question of the night coming up. Sounds of silver as well. Warriors win it over the Jazz. 808 KNBR, the number. YouTube chat is lit. 118 to 100. Dubs beat the Jazz. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Hello, Klay Thompson.
This is KNBR, and this is Dubs OT with John Dickinson, streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 104.5.
Warriors do want to thank the other Luka because Dallas beat Houston, put Warriors in the play-in tournament officially. Klay Thompson again!
Oh, my goodness. His teammates on the bench are going, keep going, Klay.
On the road, he had a 21-point half. He's got 20 in this first half.
You got to feed the hot hand. He's hungry. Let him eat.
It's a Hall & Oates Sunday here on Dubs OT with JD, the sports leader. 808 KNBR, 415. I almost went full disc jockey mode and just stopped talking right at the hook, just to let it play. Here from, yeah, oh yeah, big Hall & Oates guy, here from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. It's John Dickinson. It's Greg Silver back in our San Francisco studios. Big night from Klay Thompson. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 118 to 110. Warriors beat the Jazz. No Steph Curry. No Andrew Wiggins. massive games from Klay Thompson. Real nice return from Jonathan Kuminga, 21 points, 10 boards, 4 assists, a block. And the Warriors improved to 43-35 on the season with 4 games to go. And the big one is the showdown in Los Angeles coming up on Tuesday. The Warriors' last stand, really, at getting the number 9 seed in the Western Conference play-in race. Warriors currently trailing the Lakers by a game and a half in the standings. Lakers currently trailing the Timberwolves down in Southern California, keeping everybody updated. It's 88-77 Minnesota midway through the third quarter there. And as we mentioned before the break, no Anthony Davis, out with an eye injury. So I didn't see if he got poked in the eye, Greg, again, or hit in the face, whatever it is. It was enough to keep him out for the second quarter when the Timberwolves threw it on the Lakers 46-27. And the Timberwolves, much like the Warriors, had control of the time in which he missed against them going back to that March 16th game. The Timberwolves have basically controlled the game with AD out. So we'll keep everybody updated on that. We do want to get to our question of the night. Some text messages are coming up on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line here at Harmonic Brewing. But let's go ahead and set up our question of the night tonight here on Dubs OT. And for that, we bring back in Greg Silver. Greg, what do we want to do tonight as far as question of the night?
Yeah, I think this is kind of a pretty obvious one in terms of the direction we should go. I know it's going to be a lot of it is depends on the opponent, and we'll kind of acknowledge that. But Jonathan Kuminga looks really good off the bench, and I thought he was going to start too when Andrew Wiggins was announced that he'd be out. Steph Curry was obviously resting. So I think our question of the night is, in an elimination play-in game, would you want to see Kuminga come off the bench? And our answer could be yes, because you like this Trace Jackson-Davis, Draymond Green pairing in the front court. We're not getting into the Jonathan Kuminga as a 3 talk. We've beat that into the ground. Not happening.
Well, that's again tonight tells you, like, if he was ever going to start at the 3, tonight would have been the night, and Steve Kerr wanted no part of it.
Right. So it's not happening. Option 2 is no, you want to see Draymond at the 5 and Kuminga at the 4 because he's been your second most consistent offensive piece over the course of the season. And then option 3, which is kind of a little ode to JD option. Are they playing the Lakers or the Kings? Because that depends.
That's a great point. Yeah, I think it's trending that way. Look, Steve Kerr, I think, has given us a couple of tells. And the first one is when he said the other night that the Trace Jackson-Davis-Draymond combo has changed their team. Like, and he's talking about defense when he talks about that. So I think he wants to see a little bit more of that. And I think he really wants to see it when Andrew Wiggins is healthy, because then you have an on-ball defender that you can put out there. Klay Thompson's reasserted himself into the starting lineup. So you're going to go Steph and Klay. You're going to go Wiggins if he's healthy and available. The other tell, I think, was tonight. And that tell was that even when there was a spot at the 3 open with Wiggins out, Kerr could have gone to Kuminga there and used tonight to tinker, although tonight maybe is not the night to tinker because it's a game that the Warriors wanted to win, and it's Kuminga's first game back, so you don't want to add more to his plate by having him play a position that he hasn't played really at any point over extended minutes in his career. And let's be honest, the few times where Coach Kerr has put Kuminga out there and, you know, even in short bursts at the 3, it's been so disastrous that Kerr basically swears off ever doing it again. And so I guess in that vein, we shouldn't have been surprised. But Podziemski's been such a big part of so many of their winning lineups, it would stand to reason with Wiggins out that Podziemski would go in there. So I think this thing is trending toward, and here's the other part. Kuminga can do it and be effective. And I think that's a big, it's 6 straight games for Kuminga off the bench where he scored 20 or more. He can, and especially if Klay is going to be in the starting lineup, then you need somebody that can come off the bench and be a go-to scorer. Be somebody that's going to be willing to look to be in attack mode. And so again, it's not the ultimate end game for Jonathan Kuminga's career, but as far as the best combination to allow this team to maximize what they have between now and whenever this season ends, I think it's the right call. I think you would probably want the TJD Draymond starting lineup against both the Lakers and the Kings, to be perfectly honest. But I do think it's fluid, and Steve Kerr's never been reluctant to pull a center not named Draymond Green off the court in favor of another wing player or another 3-4 type player. And so I think that bodes well for, like, historically, if you're looking for that, historically, what would happen? TJD would start a game or a series, and Kuminga would end up being in the closing lineup, probably, with Draymond and with Wiggins and probably Steph and Klay or maybe somebody else if they're having a big night. So I think the answer is, for the time being, let Kuminga cook as a bench guy. He's showed that he can do it. And then you're also keeping the TJD Draymond front court as a starting group that allows you to, that Steve is on record as saying, change their team, Greg, defensively.
And as we talked about on Just Dubs, it was the Steph Curry cosign, which when those two are aligned, which has been more often than not with all the success, when those two are aligned, it usually tells you where it's going.
Great. That's a great point. That is an absolutely great point. 808 KNBR, the number. So that's our question of the night here on Dubs OT with JD here on Esports Leader. Watching the Timberwolves and the Lakers, keeping everybody updated on that out here at Harmonic. Lakers down 7 at 90-83. Actually, now 90-85. Lakers trailing the Timberwolves. No LeBron and no Anthony Davis, but a 5-point game nevertheless with about 2:30 to go in quarter number 3 down in Southern California. Back to the phones we go. It's Bruce in San Jose next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Bruce.
Yeah, hey, good evening, JD. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it.
Yeah, I think, watching the Warriors over the past couple of years in the roster and hearing the interviews from the players, they're not as concerned about who's starting and, right now, this time of year, they're finding the rotation. Kerr, in my mind, as an amateur fan, he's just trying to find the right rotations right now, and I think, we're looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good right now. I think, not upsetting the Trace Jackson-Davis Draymond pairing, I think is something that they want to be able to do right now. And I'm kind of with you. I think there was maybe a little bit too much made of would Kuminga accept it or understand it. I mean, one, he didn't really have a choice, but two, I think the more you really dig deeper into Kuminga and just his takes on things, he just wants to be playing. He just wants to be playing and a part of the action and helping. Like I think it's less malicious than it is wanting to help some of his frustrations that have been expressed in the media as far as lack of opportunities or losing faith in the coaching staff and things like that. I don't think it's necessarily about clout or platitudes or anything like that. I think it's more about just wanting to help.
Exactly. And I think, it to me, it'd be more important to finish the game rather than starting. I feel my coach trusts me more if he's letting me in at the end of the game where there's a little bit more on the line, less time. I guess the stakes are higher towards the end of the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. Hey, Bruce, thank you so much, man, for chiming in. Don't make it your last call. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, JD. Have a good night, bro.
All right, man. You too. Bruce in San Jose chiming in. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627 to give us a call or shoot us a text here. It's Dubs OT with JD here on Esports Leader. Lakers are hot right now. Timeout. Nope, no timeout. I thought we were going to get a timeout. Back and forth they go. Lakers cutting it to a 4-point game, but the Timberwolves extending it out to a 7-point lead. Big 3-pointer for the Timberwolves to keep the Lakers at bay here in the final minute. Nickeil Alexander-Walker keeping the Timberwolves up 7 here as it's basically
good. He made like a million
optional.
threes against the Warriors.
Defense optional game this has turned into down at the Crypt in LA. Offense galore on every possession. But yeah, 97-91, the updated count, and now 97-92 with D'Angelo Russell going to the free throw line as Lakers trying to win without AD. That would be a big one if they could win without AD and LeBron. But so far, Minnesota having the advantage there. Yeah, I think Kuminga's good with it. I think he's shown that he can do it. And, he is, in all likelihood, Greg, going to be a part of the closing lineups. I think that's going to be a big part of, Steve Kerr typically likes to close smaller. And so I think he's got a great chance to be a part of those closing lineups, especially if he's playing like he was tonight. But it also has shown that when Draymond can play the 4 at the beginning of games, that it does keep him fresher to be able to play the 5 down the stretch in games to where he's not quite as worn out. And there have been people that have pointed that out in the chat, and we've gone back and forth on it. And my issue has never been really that Draymond has to play the 5 for Draymond's sake. It's more been, if Kuminga is going to remain a starter, then that means Draymond's going to have to play the 5 because Kuminga's a 4. That's really where it's all kind of come from as far as I'm concerned. But when you look at it, if Kuminga is going to be coming off the bench, to me, it's a Kuminga or Trace Jackson-Davis conversation. It's either TJD starts, and if you want to play that combination, then Kuminga comes off the bench. If you don't want to play that combination of Draymond and TJD in the starting lineup, then you can have Kuminga start at that point and play Kuminga at the 4 and play Draymond Green at the 5 as well. Back to the phones we go. The people want to talk tonight, and that's Paul, who's coming back from Chase Center here on eSports Leader. What's going on, Paul?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
You got it, brother. What's on your mind?
My main question is based on tonight's play. With Steph and Wiggins sitting. Coach Kerr obviously evaluating some players. Which ones you think maybe play well enough to gain some more minutes? And secondly, I've been happy with the Klay's coming along too. It seems like he's settling into back to on balance, 2 feet on balance, catch and shoot, and not fading away. And it seems like the play is a lot better and the shooting percentage going up. Seems like a trend that he's kind of embraced. Just wanted to see what you thought about that.
Yeah, no, I think Klay's looked really good. I think he's, I think the time off the bench has helped him become more steady as a starter, believe it or not. I think kind of going to the bench for that stretch of games where he went to the bench and played really well, I think that allowed him to kind of clear his head and play better and work on whatever was ailing him, and then he gets inserted back into the starting lineup, and it's like he never left. Which I think is it's a good thing. So and now it's like, all right, it looks more like, I'm not going to say the old Klay Thompson. I don't think it's looked necessarily like, but it's looked more like the Klay Thompson that we've seen, the better version of Klay Thompson that we've seen over the course of these last 2 years since he's come back from the back-to-back injuries. So I don't know. I'm Greg, what do you think of that? I mean, I think it's if you got to answer the line, brother. I'm keeping tabs on you. If we got people that want to talk, Greg's just doing everything tonight. I'm like, hey, let's have a chat. Greg's answering the phones. He's trying to coordinate the sound. No, I think going to the bench helped Klay refocus himself as a starter. And look, I don't think it was an effort thing or anything like that when I said refocus. I just think Klay does not look nearly as tightly wound as he did when he was really struggling before Steve Kerr moved him to the bench. And, sometimes, and you see this a lot in baseball. Sometimes you've got a dude who starts, and he's grinding and he's grinding and he's grinding and he's not getting it done. You give him a couple days off. And you put him back in the starting lineup, or you let him not start for a week and you put him back in the starting lineup, and all of a sudden he can perform again. And, I think there has been a little of that with Klay. And so, now I think he's in the starting lineup for the duration of this bad boy. Like, Klay Thompson ain't going anywhere. And you know what? Rightfully so. If he's going to play at the level that he has, you don't need him to be coming off the bench. 808 KNBR, back to the phones. We keep it moving tonight here with Duck Sauce in San Jose. What's going on, Duck Sauce?
JD, what's going on, my guy? Just had a few takes.
Hey, what's up?
Tonight. Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I was just, on Kuminga, obviously we all wanted to know how he looked physically, and once that was apparent, that was a nice relief. But bigger to me too is just I love his approach tonight. I thought there was not one time all game that he ever looked like he was forcing it. He was making the right read, making the right passes, aside from scoring efficiently. So I just loved his approach, and his. He looked like he was having fun, happy to be out there, which is all good because, you do wonder about how he, how he's going to react coming off the bench. So that was great to see. And then, of course, the 10 rebounds was huge to me, too. And then, other than that, I think as far as, what we can hope for, just talking about this season is, everyone's in a good space mentally as far as they can be, as far as, you can make a case that Wiggins, Klay, and Kuminga had the most peaks and valleys this year, and right now, to me, all of them are in about as good a space as they can be at that we've seen all season. And that's about all we can ask for a puncher's chance to really try to, pull off something magical if that's what we got. So, I'm optimistic about that. And then the last thing I wanted to run by you, JD, I know this is a bit of a curveball, but if the Kings have the tiebreaker against us and then we beat the Lakers and that gives us the tiebreaker against the Lakers, how does it work if we finish in a three-way tie record-wise? Break that one down for me. So I'll take that. I appreciate you.
You know what? I appreciate that, Duck Sauce. We'll start with the last thing first, as I'm prone to do. I believe it comes down to division record among the three, because all three are in the same division. Now, I'm going to check that during our next break, which is coming up here in about 4 or 5 minutes. We'll pause and we'll come back. We got Sounds of Silver coming up. We'll update our question of the night and all of that. I believe that's the case. It may also be head-to-head between the group. And so I'm going to have to check on that as well. And I believe head-to-head among the group would go to the Kings first, because the Kings have a 4-0 on the Lakers. It's not just a tiebreaker that the Kings have on the Lakers. The Kings swept the Lakers in 4 head-to-head matchups this season. And so looking at the standings right now, if it's the divisional record, the Kings have the number one there. The Warriors would actually move in front of the Lakers if they beat the Lakers there. So I believe in that instance it would be Kings, Warriors, Lakers. But I don't want to, again, that's off the top of my head. I'm going to double check. It's a couple of clicks away. A little too difficult for me to do while we're talking here and doing the show, but I'll get it for you during the break, and we'll get the Kings, Lakers, Warriors tie break. But I believe the Kings win that 3-way tiebreaker as far as being 8, and then it comes down to the Lakers and the Warriors as far as who's going to be 9 or 10. Speaking of the Lakers, they had pulled to within 5 of Minnesota. Timberwolves are on a big run. Timberwolves now on a 14-4 run. Yes, please. And they're now up 14 again down in LA. 108-94 is the lead with 8:47 to go. So things are looking good as far as the Warriors gaining a full game on the Lakers. This would prove to be a good night for not only the Warriors but the Kings, who would move back into 8th. And they again have the tiebreaker, as you mentioned, over the Lakers head to head. So that bodes well for Sacramento avoiding the 9-10 game. They would basically control their own destiny with the ability to even lose one game of their last 4, and they've got a very difficult last 4. Sacramento does at OKC, and then they have 3 home games to close it out against the Pelicans, Suns, and Blazers. But assuming they can get through the Pelicans game and still control their own destiny, I think they're feeling pretty good about where they're at, and the Warriors could really help the Kings if they go in and beat the Lakers on Tuesday down at Crypto.com arena. So, yeah, we'll get that for you, though, coming up. 808 KNBR is the number. A couple of the other things Duck Sauce chimed in on. Boy, that is such a salient point about Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, and Jonathan Kuminga all being in a great place mentally, because they both, all 3 of them have had ups and downs. And you're right. Like, I thought, Kuminga looked ready to roll tonight. It looked like he didn't miss a beat, and he did it in a new role, and in a role that I think can be more beneficial to winning with TJD and Draymond having the ability to start together. So I think you give Kuminga a lot of credit there. I think you give Klay a lot of credit for accepting the bench role, going and performing and earning the right when injuries and things happen to go back into the starting lineup, and he's performed like Klay Thompson. And Andrew Wiggins, it's been a grind, and there have still been times where he's looked like he hasn't been there, and he's nowhere near where he was 2 years ago, especially in terms of consistency. But Andrew Wiggins is, I think, exponentially better than he was at the beginning of the year, which again is, not saying everything, but it's absolutely not nothing. And so, yeah, I think Wiggins, assuming he can come back, and I think the Warriors need him to come back and shake some of the rust off here over these final 4 and be ready to roll as the starting 3-man and primary ball defender that they need him to be here between now and the end of the regular season. Kuminga's approach was the other Duck Sauce point. Excellent. Yeah, Kuminga's approach was good. And, I think the Warriors have given him free reign early in games to take a jumper here or there. Take that first 3. If the team wants to give it to you, take that first 3. And he hit it tonight. If you want to take a dribble and a pull-up jumper early, do it. And get yourself comfortable. Show the defense you're not afraid to take it. But later on, it's going to be slashing and dunks and all the things like, you can. And I like the fact that he did that tonight, especially against this Utah team trying to shake off the rust. Typically, I don't love the 17-foot jumper. Typically, I don't love him taking a quick 3 early in the game. But I liked it tonight because of the opponent, because it was his first game back, and I think because the Warriors have given him a little bit of a green light early in the game when he's on the court, because showing the defense that he's going to take that shot opens up the areas of his game where he's really effective, which is at the freaking rim. And everything for Kuminga tonight after those first couple of shots was at the rim, and that's where he's at his most impactful from an offensive standpoint. All right, 808 KNBR. Still a couple of lines open if you want to join the conversation. And we got people that want to talk. Rondo, Eric, and Chris are all coming up. Quick timeout. And then we're getting right back to the phones. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
Rasheed Wallace.
This is Giants baseball. Nothing like it.
There's a long drive to right. It's headed for the bay.
On KNBR and KNBR FM, San Francisco, a Cumulus media station.
Did you hear something?
Yeah, like a swoosh.
Yeah.
Dubs OT presents the sounds of silver. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Shot clock at 7. Kuminga soaring with the left hand.
It was like a wheel action. It was misdirection. You had Pojemski driving in there. That didn't work out. Kick it out. They stayed patient. Finally, they got a freight train coming through by name of Kuminga.
Trace Jackson Davis protecting the rim against Sexton. Kuminga again. Tic-tac-toe. Trace for the Ducks.
All right, big night from Jonathan Kuminga back here on Dubs OT with JD from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. Cheers to everyone out there listening and watching on the YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter streams. We'll keep this thing rolling here as we get into the 9 o'clock hour. Warriors beat the Jazz tonight, 118-110 is the final. So the Warriors now 43-35. I want to get back to the phones here. Sounds of Silver coming up in just a moment. I do want to answer the quick tiebreaker question. Duck Sauce had asked a specific, what if the Kings, the Warriors, and the Lakers all end up tied? How does that shake out for 8, 9, and 10, let's say? It is, and I looked through this on the NBA Media Central website. The first tiebreaker is division winner. So if any of the three had been a division winner, that team would have moved ahead, but the Clippers are going to win the Pacific Division. So none of the Lakers, Kings, or Warriors are going to be the division winner. So that one's out. It goes to the second tiebreaker, which is better winning percentage in games against each other. And so it's straight up, you group every Kings-Lakers game, every Kings-Warriors game, every Warriors-Lakers game together. And yes, I had that one right. The Kings have a 6-2 record against the Warriors and Lakers. So the Kings would be the 8 in that, or the top seed of the 3, whatever 3 seeds they're playing for. If the Lakers beat the Warriors Tuesday night, the Lakers would be the second team in that group. If the Warriors beat the Lakers on Tuesday night, the Warriors would be the second team in that group in the 3-way tie. So Tuesday would determine who would get the edge in a 3-way tie. But any 3-way tie between the Kings, Warriors, and Lakers, Sacramento would be the team that comes out on top because they swept the Lakers 4-0 and then split with the Warriors. So they have a 6-2 record. Warriors have a 3-4 record. Lakers have a 2-5 record. Actually, the Lakers have I take that back. The Lakers have a 1-5 record. So the Warriors would be, and in fact, I miscalculated. The Warriors would be the second in any iteration, given that I miscounted on the records there. Actually a 1-6 record. So even if the Lakers beat the Warriors, a 3-way tie, the Warriors would get the advantage there. So apologies for any confusion on that for Duck Sauce, and apologies for the mistake on the Lakers record. Lakers are actually 1-6 against the Warriors and Kings. So any 3-way tie between Sac, Golden State, and the Lakers would go exactly that way. Sac gets the best spot. Warriors get the second best spot. Lakers would get the third best spot in that instance. 808 KNBR, back to the phones. Wando in the Bay next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Wando.
Hey, JD, Greg. Thanks for taking my call. Just want to say,
you got it.
Just for what you just went through. You're the best, JD, and I think I called, shortly after your move, but just want to reiterate how big the coup for the JD coup for the leader has been in terms of, my own, flipping the dial and, keeping it locked here. So great job from you and Greg this season. And Copes, I just want to make sure that, it's clear, you guys are doing a great job. And anyways, to get to the Warriors, I listen to you a lot, JD, and I get a lot of good points to chat with other people about. I get a lot of things wrong too, of course, but a couple of things I got right earlier in the year, a couple of weeks ago, where saying that Klay was going to be moving to the bench shortly, sharing that with some friends. I don't know if I picked that up here or not, and then the other thing was the Trace eating into the Looney minutes. I thought that it was.
Oh, did we lose Wando?
Oh. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Hey, let's put Wando on hold. Put him on hold, Greg. Let's put him on hold. His phone was cutting out there. I thought it was maybe my headset, but I think it was his phone. So let's pick up with Wando. Let's make sure he's in a good spot real quick. And once he's in a good spot, we'll get back to Wando, and it'll just give me an opportunity to say, hey, thanks a lot for the kind words, and thanks for making the switch with me over here to KNBR. Couldn't be happier. Love Copes. Love Greg Silver. It's been awesome. We got a lot of great things coming up here as far as our Dubs coverage. Hopefully the Warriors make it far enough to where we can roll all of it out this season. But, yeah, appreciate it. Wando back with us here on the Sports Leader. I kind of lost you at the TJD Looney interchange.
Thanks for getting me back on. I was just saying, it seemed pretty clear to me that shift was coming. And then I agree with that salient point you mentioned that I think Doug Stoss made about, we're getting things going at the right time. I don't want to, it's the same, but obviously we saw what Boston did putting together a good second half of the season a couple of years ago. The reason I'm calling, though, is because what you said about Klay and how, I agree that he was, ready to move to the bench for a short period of time at least, but I didn't think it was going to be a permanent thing. But I don't know. I just, when you said something that made me think about the timing of it in terms of with the pressure sort of off the team now, being locked in this plan, sort of being at peace with that. I wonder how related the timing of the whole bench situation was for Klay, because maybe he had just a lot of extra pressure throughout the season, thinking that, the record was partly reflected on his play. And I just want to add one last thing in that his going to the bench was good. It was important. We want that selfless sort of feel in the team. Kuminga, whether or not he had an option, is great. But I think one understated point throughout the season was Looney losing his streak. We talked about it, but it's just, I can imagine the locker room. That was a big thing for the locker room to go through. And, whether it was spoken much or not in the locker room, I think now is hopefully putting everything, any personal things behind them. And it does seem like the team is the number one priority. So thanks for taking my call, guys. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, no, thanks, Wando. Appreciate it, man, and all the kind words. I do think this team's in a good place. Kevon Looney is as beloved by his teammates and the coaching staff as any Warrior player of the last decade that's not the big three. I think that's just real. And, I think, he's been selfless. Klay's been selfless. Draymond, after, maybe a selfish start to the year, has, tried to come on in that vein the best that he can. And it does feel like things are kind of clicking again at the right time. Now, all of that being said, you've still painted yourself into a corner where one bad night can end your season here in about a week, in about a week and a half. So you got it. Yeah, about 10 days. The playing game's 10 days away. So, it's going to be it's going to be nervous time, which is going to be fun. But it's going to be, I think, a little disappointing if the Warriors can't somehow survive that first week, because they have come so far to get to this point. And if they do find themselves out on the 17th or the 19th in that first week, I do think there's going to be a sense of real missed opportunity in that it took them so freaking long to get everything on the same page, and then knowing that you have to go back and start all over and that things are going to be dramatically different next year. So I think all of those things are in play. And it would be kind of a bummer, honestly, to not see them get a chance to beat somebody in a series. But hey, you played your way into that position, and let's be honest, there's nobody across the league that's going to be feeling sorry for the Warriors if they don't get a shot. I mean, they did it to themselves, but so we'll have to see. And, they've got an opportunity ahead of them. Go play all out in LA Tuesday, and then figure out if you want to continue to go for the 9 seed or rest everybody up for what's going to be not just 1, but 2 must-win games, and potentially 2 must-win games with 1 day in between. And maybe you got to go to like New Orleans. Like, that's the other thing. Like, you might have to go halfway across the freaking country to play the second one. And that is no picnic for a veteran-laden team. So 808 KNBR, let's keep it rolling with Eric in San Francisco next on the Sports Leader. Hey, Eric.
Hey, JD.
What's going on, man?
Yeah, so I was at the game tonight, and 2 things kind of popped out to me that I think are kind of abundantly clear. One's more about the playoff rotation this year, and one is more about just personnel for next year.
Sure.
And the first thing I noticed for the rotation this year is I think tonight really showed to me that I know Klay was awesome tonight, but it actually shows to me he really fits better as a 6th man. And the reason why I say that is I've been to a couple games this year where he's gone nuclear, either coming off as the 6th man right away or tonight. But like once he hits about 20 minutes, give or take, his shot starts going short. And he really has had a couple halves where he scored like 18 to 20 points in the first half and had like 2 to 4 points in the second half. And I just think he'd be much more effective as that kind of Lou Williams, Jamal Crawford. Give him 24 minutes to get in like 16 shots where he might make like 8 to 10, then go like 6 of 17 and play like 35 minutes where, like last game, part of the reason we lost was he got beat point of attack all the time. And so I just think he'd be much more effective because his legs just don't have 30 playoff minutes left in that inning.
No, you know what? That's a good point, and I've noticed the same thing as you bring it up. The fact that he does tire, and you want to make sure that you keep him fresh. And you keep. I think you want to keep him closer to the 30, the 28 to 30 minute mark. I don't think there's much doubt about that. And you're right. He does tend to, even when he's had some hot halves, tire out a little bit. I'm kind of with you as far as the future. I think for the rest of this year, he's going to be a starter. It's just going to be, you're going to have to balance his minutes as much as you can. And I think, Eric, what it comes down to is, I think it is a night-to-night proposition. I think if he's kind of rolling, you don't want to get caught in just leaving him out there too long because he's rolling. You still want to be a little bit more stringent with getting him a rest. But I also think it's if there's nights where he looks tired from Jump Street and is struggling, then maybe those are nights where you really look to not play him as much and look for somebody else that might have a hotter hand or a better opportunity on that given night rather than just riding him out because he's Klay Thompson and he's a prior champion and he can get hot at any time and any of that, because he's only going to get tireder as the game goes on as opposed to get more fresh.
That's why I was thinking, like, okay, if he's getting tired in the first half, if you make him the 6th man where he's closing, so that minute allocation is more like he's anchoring that second unit from like the 8 to the 6 minute mark in the first half, and then kind of anchoring, subs out, comes back in the last like 4 or 5 minutes. Now he's coming in the last 4 or 5 minutes at like 20 to 24 minutes instead of like 28 minutes. And he can kind of give you that extra spacing at the end. Like he front rimmed the Mavs shot. Imagine if he'd had 4 minutes left or less that night. He probably makes that because he's a good closer when he has his legs. So that's why I was thinking the 6th man for the closing lineup. not necessarily the starting, the closing.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But how you do, but yeah, he'd have to obviously not start to be able to do that. That's an interesting point. I feel like the ship has sailed for this year. I think they're going to start him the rest of this year, just based on the fact that he's performed well now, and they want to have more of a veteran in that starting lineup with these must-win games that are ahead. I'm kind of with you maybe for next year as an overall load management type plan for next year. And, but again, all of that is contingent on whether or not he wants to come back or not, and what level of money he wants to take to be able to come back and all of that. So I think the can gets kicked down the line, but I think we're also too far down the road. And thank you for the call, Eric. I really appreciate it. I think it's too far down the line right now as far as, you're not going to go back to Podziemski or somebody like that at this point of the season. In Los Angeles, the Timberwolves are going to win over the Lakers. As I look at it, it has just gone final, 127-117. So the Warriors now find themselves a game and a half back of the Lakers, and I want to make sure I get these standings right. The Warriors are 43-35 with their win tonight. The Lakers dipped to 45-34, and the Kings are now a half game up on the Lakers with the tiebreaker. Kings are in 8th tonight at the close of business in this one. So Kings 45-33, Lakers 45-34, and I'm tweeting this out right now, so that's why I'm kind of stammering all over myself. I got to be multi-platform, Greg. You got to be able to tweet while you're talking, which isn't exactly my strong
I'll give you
suit.
a window to tweet right now, and we'll revisit the question of the night numbers as if anyone joined us a little bit later and missed our question of the night. We wanted to know, in an elimination play-in game, which is in all likelihood.
And Chris and Mark, we're coming to you right after this, but go ahead, Greg.
And an elimination play-in game, which will likely be the case for the Warriors at 9 or 10. Would you want to see Jonathan Kuminga start or come off the bench as a spark? Our options were start, he's a consistent scorer. Bench, Trace Jackson-Davis and Draymond in the front court works. Or is it versus the Lakers? Is it against the Kings? Because that kind of depends. So on Twitter /X,
love that one.
Right now, it's start is at 35%, bench is 44%, and then depends is 21%. And then if I'm gonna flip it over to Threads, it is an even.
Threads love Kuminga.
Threads love Kuminga. But it is a 44% each for start and bench, and then the remaining 13 is I don't know how the math works. How is the mathing there? 44 plus 44 plus 13. Anyway,
ask Threads.
That's a question for Mark Zuckerberg and company.
Yeah, that's right. Ask Facebook. Ask Meta.
Yeah. So are you done with your tweet? I'm sorry. I got all disjointed there.
No, you're good. And I kept interrupting you, which is commonplace on this show, but I thought it was more of like a lighthearted interruption. It wasn't like I actually was going to steal your time and then talk for 5 minutes. It was just more like, like seasoning on the great Greg Silver content. It was more just adding a little seasoning to it.
I was reading off a screen. You're forgiven.
Adding a little tahini. I was adding a little tahini to your content. I don't know if you're a big tahini guy or not.
I don't hate it, but I never went crazy for it like some people. But let's get back to the phones because Chris and Mark have been awesome and patient.
Yeah, Chris has been waiting too long. Chris, you're next here on the Sports Leader. Longest wait on the board, and that's too long, and I'm gonna accept responsibility for that, Chris. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Dubs OT.
No problem. I'm the chamoy on your margaritas.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
To anybody who's been to Mexico. So just a few things. One, my heart goes out to Caitlin Clark. Iowa lost. Became a big bandwagon fan. Second one is Giants thank God Matt Chapman signed with the team. That was a big, big sign. Obviously, we're talking Warriors. One guy we don't talk about enough, it seems like, is Pajemski, however the hell you say his name. I mean, the guy was a stud tonight and covered himself almost in the first half. I was very impressed with him and his poise, and he's becoming a very, very strong asset for the Warriors. And you can see that displayed tonight, especially with that big jam. And just wanted to put those few things out there in the ethos for you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. Thank you for the call. And, yeah, Pajemski has been, I think, in some ways an underrated component to this Warriors team this year. He's in all of their top lineups in terms of plus minus, at least a lot of them. Steve Kerr freaking loves him. But at times I think he's been a little maligned by the fans. And so hasn't gotten his just due for the things that he's brought to the table. And I think he's also been a little bit of the easy to blame guy at times for the Warriors as well. But he was terrific tonight. Back in the starting lineup, he had been starting. I think he hit a little bit of a rookie wall. And he was terrific. And he can, Kerr says it, and some people roll their eyes. But, the dude does a lot of little things, from rebounding to moving the basketball to, not being a great defender, but being a defender that's at least willing to take some charges. He's done the job. And tonight, the Warriors really needed it, and he came up at a high level. So, yeah, nice nod to Brandon Pajemski for having himself a winning effort kind of a night. Mark in Santa Cruz next here on the Sports Leader. It's Dubs OT with JD here on a Sunday night, and the phone lines are lit. I love it, Mark. What's going on tonight?
Well, JD, I watched the game earlier today. Also was tuning in on getting myself together for the since can't see it. I was interested in the eclipse tonight, so I watched some of that. But I came back to the ball games, basketball, and I'll tell you something. As far as I'm concerned, the gentleman before me who talked about they should sit Klay Thompson down. Not a chance. Are you kidding me? That guy's got more basketball in him and in his left pinky than the other five guys on the field. Sorry, but that's the way I feel about him. That guy can shoot the lights out. And I know he's having a little bit of a downtime, but Kerr is a great guy. He'll motivate him up and then bring him up a little bit and then put him out there. So I'd rather take my chances with Thompson myself. I mean, I understand the other guy can play, but I'm talking about a guy that's a 4 or 5 times All-Star, if not more, maybe 7. I'm not sure. But,
it's been a lot, and cut short, obviously, by a couple injury years that would have been All-Star years for sure.
Kind of remind me.
2 years.
Go back to Grant Hill. Remember Grant Hill had all those.
I remember.
Ankle injury. He had an ankle injury. He played off and on it for 9 years, and finally he got better on him. If you can imagine that.
The sad part of the Klay Thompson story is the fact that he was one of the most durable players in the entire league.
Oh man, was he ever?
And then
had the
2 free. Yeah, and had the 2 free games. I mean, he never missed games. He had missed 20 games in his career, and then he missed 2 full seasons.
They say that his boat stopped about a quarter mile away from so he just jumped out and swam to make sure he was on the court at the right time.
He loves that boat. He loves the boat. He loves the boat, and he loves his dog, and he's just a very spiritual dude, man. And thanks,
really
Mark.
is. And so as far as I'm concerned, I'm going with Klay all day long myself. Now, I think there's a reason that Steph Curry's a coach. Steph Curry's a pretty talented young man. So whether you think Steph Curry's maybe not making the right move, I would have to double guess that and check it again, because I don't know. I mean, Curry's made some moves that have been a little bit questionable at times. But I'll tell you something. I think he's done a good job.
What's going on, man? How you doing? You good? Come on over. Hey, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Come on, we're gonna have a quick. I don't have a mic for you, but I appreciate. What was your name? Forrest. Appreciate you here. Let me. Yeah, come on over to you're in the shot here. Just say hi. Just say what's up to the people. This is going out right on the YouTube stream, on the Twitter stream, all of that. This is Forrest. I don't have a mic for Forrest on this setup. Otherwise, I'd let him. We'd have a little chat. But I appreciate you stopping by. Thanks a lot for coming by. We have had Forrest here. We had Cole here earlier. We had Danny in Vancouver, who's a regular, who stopped by earlier. Always appreciate everybody who stops by and say hi. Just give me your just quick general thoughts. You got your Giants. Did you go to both games today? I love it. Forrest went to both games today. And absolutely. It was a great win. The Giants didn't play the cleanest couple of days of games, but they won today. They won 2 out of 3, and you'll take it. Yeah, Webb was really battled. Yeah.
With the Warriors, yeah, we got it going on.
Yeah, Warriors.
With Wiggins and Curry sitting.
Yeah.
We're rocking it.
Warriors got it going on. So, yeah. So, Forrest, I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you so much. Have a great night. And don't make it your last time, man. You ever come by here? Appreciate it, man. We appreciate it. Harmonic Brewing, thank you. We appreciate you. Forrest, yeah, chiming in. Went to both games today. Your guy, Greg, went to both games today. Cheers to you. Your guy was at both games. I was helping out. I was covering the post-game clubhouse today. I was in there interviewing Logan Webb today and Matt Chapman. And then it's like, all right, let's go get to Chase. I mean, I'm not looking for pat on the back, Greg. I'm not. I'll take the love. I will always take the love. That was Forrest was the only person that was going to get us off of Mark in Santa Cruz. Like Klay Thompson was on a heater tonight. Mark in Santa Cruz was on a heater tonight.
You know, I've taken a lot of calls today. Both me and the Kyles have taken a lot of calls today.
Yes.
We've had people who are just hitting the ground running and like they are going. I would say Mark in Santa Cruz probably doesn't even fall to the top of the pack of being on a mission on the phone. Like he probably ranks around 4 or 5 today.
Look, if there's one thing I know, and you can make this a drop on his show, if there's one thing I know, Lasky has his own special level of caller. Bill Lasky brings out a special level of KNBR caller. And here's my special message to Lasky. Here's my special message to Lasky, and he'll know what I'm talking about. Mother! That's all I got. He'll know what I mean. He'll know what I mean. I love me some Bill Lasky. We got to do at some point. We got to do a JD Lasky like either crossover segment, or I got to hop on if he's maybe filling in at night, and we just got to chop it up. Bill Lasky's one of my all-time faves.
Lasky's the man. You know, I produce for both of you now. It's like am I cheating on both of you, or since you both like each other, is it cool?
No, it's cool.
Thank God.
We're in an open relationship. We've got an open radio relationship. It's all good. Anything goes, Greg. It's all good. You're from Davis. It's all good, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You've got some Cal in your blood. It's all good, brother.
What do you say we get to some sounds before this officially goes off the rails?
You know what? We're already off the rails, so I'm going to call it. I know there's no such thing as a 20-second timeout. Let's take a quick timeout. And I know we already played the thing. Hell, we may play it again. We might just play it again. But we'll come back. We'll do Sounds of Silver. We'll do Fun with Numbers. I've been belligerently not paying attention to the YouTube chat tonight because we've had so many calls. And, you know, I don't want to disrespect Rockin' New Era 84, Rebel to Sounds, or Enrique Rivera, or Dumpster Fire Dan, or AJ Cruz 75. All of my favorite, Andis Brown, John Jay, the former outfielder John Jay is like the former Major League outfielder John Jay. He's on our chat right now. Drew Down and Enrique. FL Dubs fan, like there's so many. I haven't seen Judith tonight chiming in, but I'm sure she's watching because Judith is always watching, Judith Pierre, and we definitely love that. Buco Sports, Erwin Kwong, it's your boy Julian, Philip Reitz, Yeah. No, so I don't mean to neglect you, but we'll come back. It's Dubs OT with JD, KNBR, the sports leader.
Did you hear something?
Yeah, like a swoosh.
Yeah.
Dubs OT presents the sounds of silver. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, back here at Harmonic Brewing, final segment. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR. If you want to sneak in a couple of calls, phone lines have been lit tonight. That's been awesome. But we are, without any further ado, going to get to Sounds of Silver and then Fun with Numbers. Greg Silver, I made him wait too long. I made the callers wait too long. I made Greg Silver wait too long. I've completely neglected the YouTube chat tonight because the phones have been lit. So, yeah, Greg, the floor is yours, my man. Warriors win 118-110. Lakers lose. No LeBron, no AD at the end of that one for the Lakers. And the Warriors are a game and a half back going into LA on Tuesday night. They win that. They're a half back, and they have the tiebreaker. So still action for the Warriors, Greg, as far as potentially hosting the 9-10 game. The big winner tonight, Sacramento, because they won with the Lakers loss, and they move back into the 8th spot, meaning they don't have to worry about the Warriors or the Lakers at this particular point in time, but still a lot to play out over the final 7 days. And can you believe it? Can you believe it, Greg? 1 week from today, under a week, this whole thing will be wrapped up and we'll know what's next for the Warriors. But we do know they're going to be in the top 10. We found that out earlier on today. How's it going, my friend?
It's going well. Yeah, great night here. We've had the callers popping off. I've gotten to do a little octopus arms like the chat has been talking about. Chat's been popping off, and I will get to you guys a little bit later, but don't want to get off topic again. So we'll start with some sounds of silver. Gonna do a lot of Kerr and a lot of Klay tonight. First one, Steve Kerr said he thinks this year's team is better than last year's team, and I know that's been a point of discussion for us as the Warriors have had their ups and downs. So let's hear what he had to say about that.
Better two-way basketball, better, I think, connection, better chemistry. There's a much better vibe with this team. So I still believe firmly that we can do something special. Obviously, it's going to be a lot harder than it normally would. We're going to have to win, at least one, probably two play-in games, and that's not easy. But, if we can get a chance, I like this group's chances.
Well, there you have it. I mean, Steve has been all year really kind of bringing the Warriors could be the Lakers or the Heat of last year kind of vibes. Because when you say has the potential to do something special, that's not just win 2 elimination games and get into the tournament. That's when you say do something special, that means you can win a round or two. And so, and he's referenced what the Lakers did last year. He's referenced what the Heat have done last year at different points. Didn't do it tonight, to my knowledge, specifically. But he's been on this one for a couple of months, and sometimes it's been party of one for Steve along that thinking. But I agree with him. The final verdict, I think, is in for me off of the 6-game winning streak, and now 7 of 8. I do think this team is better than last year's team. In a better Western Conference, they're going to win more games, and they also kicked a bunch of games away, which, again, you don't get credit for those wins, but I do think it shows a level of play. The only thing that's going to be disappointing, Greg, is if they end up not making it through the play-in week and they look back and look at what might have been, now knowing that, Klay may not be back and they might look to trade Wiggins and what happens with Kuminga. And there's so many questions. It's taken this team too long. And that's the thing I'm going to say all year in the offseason. It took them too long to get to the point where they felt like they could make a run. They need to do everything they can between whenever it ends this year and October to make sure that they can be ready to make a run opening night or by November 1st, because that's where you can truly do something special.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But if we're just going to look in the short term and the immediate, I also think that there's been so much whining about the staff not being able to push the right buttons the entire season, and every single loss was the same people's faults over and over. Dude, they're pushing the right buttons lately. I'll just put that out there. And I'm with you that it's taken them too long to get to this point, because now they're going to have to play probably 2 elimination games, and winning those both will be tough with at least one on the road. But they figured something out.
They have figured something out. And again, I do think they're better. A couple of quick ones on the YouTube chat. Drew down Draymond missing big chunks of the season really hurt. Yes. And then LM, a little bit more cynical view, as is often the case with our buddy LM. When the dub season ends, Kerr will admit it was never a championship team. He has to say the company line for now. I think Kerr would admit now that it's not a championship team if you got a little truth serum in him. But again, you can make a special run and still not be a championship team. Both things
like
can
the
be
Miami Heat.
True. Yeah.
There you go.
Or the Lakers.
Right.
Or the Lakers who made a run. Make a run, though, to me means win 2 rounds. So it's got to be at least Lakers who got to the conference finals before Denver wiped them out, or the Heat who somehow got to the finals before Denver wiped them out.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Let's get to the next cut. And this is the pregame cut that we talked about before the game, or texted about rather. And this was Steve Kerr talking about minute distribution and getting the team prepared for what is ahead. It's about a minute. And here's what he had to say on that. And then we'll get back to the phones yet again.
Well, I think we'll know more every single day. We want to go out and win. We just let's take care of business today and see where everything shakes out. We may get to a point here in the next week where it's kind of, decided where we are. And at that point, we've got to think about all of our options. That's what made the Dallas game so big. Had we won that one, then we're right in the thick of everything with the Lakers, with Sacramento, with New Orleans. But now we're a couple games back, no tiebreaker against Sacramento. The Lakers, obviously 2 games ahead of us now. If it had only been one, you go to LA and that's for the tiebreaker. And so that Dallas game, in my mind, shifted things a lot and put us in a much tougher spot in terms of trying to climb the ladder. So now it's a matter of refocusing and figuring out what's the best path forward for our guys.
Yeah, Steve Kerr with some brutal honesty in the pregame. And look, I think the Warriors are handling it right. Utah, if they were playing really anybody else tonight, I think they would have probably had to play Steph. But I think Utah is actively tanking themselves. So it made sense to give Steph the breather before the Laker game. And then now the Lakers got beat and they lost Anthony Davis. So you still have action for the Lakers. The Warriors can still move to 9. I don't think they can move to 8. 2 weeks ago, we ended the 8 seed conversation. Greg, you and I did 2 weeks ago tonight. We ended it when they lost to Minnesota. I don't think Sacramento is going to free fall. Like people, they're still not in a free fall. Everybody that keeps telling me the Kings are in a free fall. They're not. They won by 30 in Brooklyn tonight. They basically did exactly what the Warriors did. They beat a team they had to beat. They play the Thunder, which I'll be honest, I don't expect them to beat the Thunder on the road Tuesday, the Kings. If they do, they're in an even better position, but I think they probably won't. But I think they will beat the Pelicans and or the Suns, at least one of them. And I think they'll beat Portland at the end. And so I think Sacramento sneaky is going to have enough to hold on to the 8. I really do, with their tiebreakers over the Lakers and the Warriors. So, credit to them for that if it comes to fruition. But the Warriors still have an opportunity to host the Lakers coming up on April the 17th. Let's get Budman in San Mateo next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Budman.
Hello, you guys. Hey, I'm really enjoying the commentary. And I missed a few minutes, so maybe you guys hit on this already. But I think the story of the night was Kuminga. Watching him in the game first, because that's what matters the most, but also on the podium. He went from a somewhat confused new guy to a young man playing serious NBA basketball. It felt like tonight, he said this, but it really felt like it was true that he spent these games off watching and learning. And when he came in tonight, I always think about players on the bench who are good. You're good, but you get put on the bench, right? So I've always thought, like, if you're sharp, you should be mentally dissecting the opposition during those first few minutes of the game and then come in and tear them up. And that's what Kuminga looked like. He looked like somebody with a knife and a fork at a steak dinner who's hungry and ready to go. And he proved it on the floor. So I think we've seen, a step up from him. Not night and day, but a nice maturity. He doesn't care if he starts or he's off the bench. He said that, but I think he also performed it, not just said it.
Yeah.
And he said it with more confidence. So I was very proud of him. I hope we get a first round just so we can see how we do in a playoff series right this minute.
Sure.
And like you said, JD, I'm really excited about next fall.
Yeah, no doubt. But, man, I think you're right on with Kuminga. I think Kuminga's 2 levels better than he was at the beginning of the year. And I've said that, and I think tonight's another. I was really impressed with him tonight, how he played and how he spoke after the game. And I know Greg had a short clip that wasn't great, so we were going to read it more as a quote. But, yeah, let everybody in on what Kuminga had to say post-game.
Yeah, so Kuminga at the podium basically just said, I really don't care if I come off the bench or not. It doesn't matter to me. But like Budman was just talking about on the phone, I think he seemed pretty sincere in that sentiment. And I think that, not to take anything away from Kuminga, because I'm not meant to do that at all here, but when you have the culture of unselfishness that has permeated through this Warriors building over the last 10 years in and out, starting and ending with Steph Curry, he's come off the bench before in the playoffs. Like, it shouldn't be anything crazy for Jonathan Kuminga to come back when the team's been playing well. He's been a part of a really tumultuous season, both off the court and on the court. So I think credit to Kuminga for just recognizing that and following the suit of his Hall of Famers. And also it's exemplary of the kind of culture that still remains in that building, even if they're not in the prime of this dynasty era. So really cool there from Jonathan Kuminga. And then all around, just we're going to cut some sound short just because, we had a lot of callers tonight, which was great. Always happy to do that. And, Sounds of Silver will live many more days.
You can sneak in one more if you want.
One more?
Yeah.
Okay, let me decide what to use then. I'll do Steve Kerr talking about his confidence of using a combination of like Kuminga and Moody and some of these other young guys. It's 43 seconds, and here's what he had to say on that matter.
Bringing Jonathan off the bench and watching him run the floor and attack the rim. That's a great dynamic to have off the bench. But we have to see when Steph is back. We got to find exactly how we want to do this because we really felt good about JK starting for about 30 straight games with Draymond at the 5. But given what's happened over the last couple of weeks, I want to keep starting Trace. So if JK's coming off the bench and he plays the way he did tonight, then great. So we'll figure it out.
So there you go. Keeping it simple. And look, there's something to that TJD Draymond defensive component that clearly the Warriors are I want to say intrigued, but I think it's far more than intrigued by. Like they think it really has, I think, the potential to unlock something special, and that they feel like they can still keep Kuminga effective and impactful. And they did that tonight. And, the other reality is I don't think they're as Kuminga dependent as it sometimes seems. And I know some people may not want to hear that. It doesn't mean he's not going to play or anything like that. I think he is going to play and the Warriors need him. But I think it's a good thing, Greg. I think it's a good thing that the Warriors are not. And I think we have learned that over the last 2 weeks. They're not as Kuminga dependent as we thought they were because he had been such a big part of everything that they had done. He was a big part of tonight, huge part of the win. It was basically him and Klay and him, however you want to dice it up. But, not being so Kuminga dependent, I think helps them in elimination games and playoff games. Let's get to fun with numbers.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, I've mentioned this one a couple of times, Greg, but this is my favorite number of the night, and I've got a little add-on to it. Jonathan Kuminga, 6th straight 20-point game off the bench. So 6 straight times. I know Kuminga had been in the starting lineup. He'd come off the bench. He'd been in the line. The last 6 times Kuminga's come off the bench, he scored 20 or more in all of those games. It ties one of my all-time favorite players growing up as a kid, Sarunas Marciulionis. Greg, I know you know nothing of Sarunas Marciulionis because I think he was out of the league by the time you were born. But Sarunas Marciulionis, when I was a kid, was a real good bench player and tough as nails and could attack, get to the basket. He was a lefty. Some big years for the Warriors in the Run TMC era. Then had a year with Sacramento when I was a kid as well. I love Sarunas Marciulionis. From Lithuania, and the 6 straight 20-plus point games off the bench tied Sarunas Marciulionis for the most consecutive 20-plus point games off the bench in Warriors franchise history, going back to 1977-78 when starters were first recorded. So anytime I can work Sarunas Marciulionis into a broadcast, I'm going to work Sarunas Marciulionis into a broadcast. Ask your dad about Sarunas Marciulionis, Greg, since you probably don't remember Sarunas Marciulionis. Jonathan Kuminga, 21, game high 10 boards, 4 assists, a block after missing the last 6 games. A 5th double-double of the season for Jonathan Kuminga. Klay Thompson, game high 32, 25 in the first half. It was his 26th career 25-point half, which is impressive as hell. TJD, 16.7 boards and a career-high tying 4 blocks. Trace Jackson-Davis getting the job done. We talked about Brandon Pajemski, 16, 7, and 6. Starting for the 28th time this season, the Warriors started their 26th different starting lineup on the night. Warriors 3-0 against the Jazz. They had 32 assists and are 25-9 when they have 30 or more assists in a game. Warriors also shot it well tonight. Not a lot of defense being played by the Jazz. 53.3% from the field. And the Dubs are 18-2 in 20 games where they have 30 or more assists and shoot at least 50% from the field. And the Warriors did today clinch a top 10 seed with the win. Still can move up to 8, although not likely. Still have a decent chance if they can win on Tuesday at having a shot at 9. But most likely the Warriors are going to wind up 10th and having to win a couple of play-in tournament games to survive and advance and get to the first round of the playoffs. And looking at the Lakers who lost tonight, the Kings who won tonight, Minnesota got a win. Minnesota and Denver tied atop the Western Conference, 54-24. Both of them are. Because if you're going to get 8th, Greg, it also is who's going to be 1 if you're going to get 8. And right now it would be Minnesota. And let me tell you, I think the Warriors would much rather play Minnesota than Denver. So I think Warrior fans, if you're rooting for them to get the 8, I think you're also rooting for Minnesota to get the 1. And that was a dual positivity with Minnesota beating the Lakers. It helped the Warriors increase their chances of getting to 8, and it also put Minnesota back in. And Minnesota's going to have the tiebreaker over Denver, believe it or not. They play one more time head-to-head, but the best the Nuggets can do is split a 4-game season series between those two, and the Timberwolves are 12-3 in the division. So the Timberwolves are going to have the division record tiebreaker over the Denver Nuggets. So we'll see who ends up 1 versus who ends up 2, who ends up 8 among the group of the Pelicans, Kings, Lakers, and Warriors. Maybe the Suns, who lost actually tonight to the Pelicans, could be in that mix as well. Greg, final thoughts to you, my friend. Really appreciate everything. It's been a great night out here at Harmonic. Appreciate the callers and everybody in the YouTube chat, all of our regulars. We're back on Tuesday, but I'm just going to kind of give you the floor here to wrap things up.
Yeah, good show tonight. Glad that people have been coming out to Harmonic. Like, I'm all good for kind of jumping around on topics throughout the show, just because we've had so much interactivity going on in the last few shows, and it's been great because we put a lot of work in since November when we started this, and really thrilled to see where it's gone. And as I like to always say, these shows are not the shows without all of you in the chat or listening or calling in or any kind of support we've been getting from afar. And I know tonight that both the Silver parents are listening because they were at Chase Center. So what are you going to do on that drive up I-80, JD?
Yeah, that you're going to listen. You're going to listen to us, and you can listen to us the whole way through, which you couldn't do in my previous life. So yeah, shout out to I forgive me if you've said this on the show. I don't, my mother's name because you and my mom share a birthday, which is a week from today. How wonderful is that? I do not know your mother's name.
Leslie Silver, if you're in the car and listening, we appreciate your support a lot.
Michael and Leslie. Shout out Michael and Leslie. Appreciate you. Appreciate you both. Great folks as you, head down 80 back home. And the Warriors get a big win. So for Greg and Mike and Leslie and John A. and Claudine in Sacramento, because they're probably listening as well. Actually, they're probably watching on YouTube. They like watching on YouTube. They're of the people. They're up with the current stuff. They're not driving around tonight. They like watching on YouTube. And for Alex and Shay at Harmonic tonight as well, and Jimmy and Mike and Grace and everybody, Julia. I'm JD. We'll talk to you Tuesday right here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Better every game he plays.
Klay Thompson hasn't pulled off at all. He's got 30.
Klay Thompson.
That's just like making a game winner.
Pocket three. Curry three.
Klay came out cooking like a Hell's Kitchen finale.
Absolutely lit.
Trace Jackson Davis. Oh! He put the entire country of France in the basket. Take that 8-foot wingspan with you.
Some days I think about like homework in school, but then, I got to look and then I don't have it.
I love it. I love that guy so much.
But Grant Williams got to stop it.
Draymond is like fish sauce. Big, fat dub.